That day will be remembered forever as the day the village of Nziru became developed. The village of Nziru has been backwards for so long, and yes, we 3 girls decided to free our village from backwardness, naming the consequences. They were just 18, 17, and 16 years old friends, so they agreed that taboo of not venturing out and backwardness will be broken. Call us whatever, we shall find out what lies ahead in other communities. This was the utterances and strong faith of these 3 girls. Ultimately, this story inspires individuals and communities to stand up against limitations and embrace the possibility of a better future, no matter the odds. Please like, follow and subscribe. In the heart of a forgotten village nestled between swaying palm trees and red dust, there lived 3 girls from Nigeria's most overlooked tribe, the Nziru. They were born into a world that whispered their fates in silence. No one expected much from Nziru girls. In the eyes of the world, they were bound to live as their mothers and grandmothers had, shadows behind men, quiet voices lost to the wind. But Ada, Ifenanya, and Ugochi were not like other girls. They had dreams as vast as the night sky. Ada, the eldest, had seen a book once. It was the first book to arrive in their village, brought by a traveler who claimed to have crossed mountains and seas. She couldn't read it, but the lines and curves on its pages told her that a world existed beyond the boundaries of the Nziru people. That night, as the village slept, Ada sat under the moon, tracing the strange symbols with her finger, dreaming of a future where she could understand their meaning. Ifenanya, the wild one, had a different kind of fire. She saw the strength in her mother's hands, hands that had planted crops, carried water, and nursed children. But she also saw the sadness in her mother's eyes, the weight of the sacrifices no one acknowledged. Ifenanya wanted more than silent strength, she wanted her voice to roar. But in their village, a woman's loud voice was seen as an insult to tradition. To speak up would mean punishment, even exile. Ugochi was the quietest of them all, but her silence hid a mind sharper than the knife her father used to carve wood. She had heard the stories whispered by the elders, stories of women long forgotten, who had once ruled the tribe, who had known the secrets of the land. But those stories had been buried, much like the women themselves. Ugochi's goal was to dig them back up, to learn the forgotten ways of power. They met in secret, under the banyan tree by the river. There, they made a pact. They would not accept the futures laid out for them. They would change their destinies. But this decision did not come without cost. Ada stole books from the traveling merchants and learned to read in the dark, knowing that if she was caught, she would be banished. Her fingers bled as she scribbled down words on stolen paper, but she didn't stop. Ifenanya challenged the village elders, speaking up in council meetings where women were forbidden to speak. For this, she was beaten and left to lie under the scorching sun. But she rose again, her voice louder than before. Ugochi, in her quiet rebellion, found the sacred text that told of the old ways. She was the one who uncovered the truth, that women had once been the guardians of the tribe's knowledge, but the men had taken it away. The night they were found out was one no one would forget. It was Ada's 16th birthday, and the 3 girls had gathered to plan their escape. But the village chief's spies had been watching. The men came with torches, shouting accusations of witchcraft. They tied the girls to the village square post, ready to burn them for defying the traditions. But then something miraculous happened. A storm unlike any the village had seen before came out of nowhere. Thunder cracked like a whip, and the skies opened, drenching the flames before they could rise. In the chaos, the 3 girls escaped into the forest, where the secrets of the forgotten women guided their path. Years later, whispers began to spread of 3 powerful women from the Nziru tribe who had risen to unimaginable heights. Ada had become a renowned scholar, Ifenanya a fearless leader of a women's movement, and Ugochi the keeper of ancient knowledge, restoring the balance of power between men and women. But the people in their village, They spoke of them only in hushed tones, as if they were still something of a myth, a tale of girls who defied fate, broke chains, and sacrificed everything to become legends. Years after Ada, Ifunanya, and Ugochi escaped the flames of their village's wrath, their names became whispered symbols of hope and defiance, not just in the Nziru tribe, but across the land. At first, the village elders, shamed by the girls' escape, forbade anyone to speak of them. But the women's absence was felt like a missing heartbeat, and the world they were building beyond the village borders was impossible to hide forever. In distant cities, Ada, the scholar, had become a renowned advocate for education. She established schools for girls across the country, and her ideas began to seep into even the most conservative tribes. These schools taught more than just reading and writing, they were institutions of empowerment. Ada's speeches became famous, her name a rallying cry for those who had been silenced for too long. She was invited to speak before kings, leaders, and international conferences, but her heart never forgot her roots. Quietly, she sent teachers back to Nziru, disguised as traders, to educate the village's children in secret. Knowledge spread like wildfire, and slowly, the younger generation of Nziru began to question the old ways. Ifunanya's rebellion, meanwhile, had exploded into a full-blown movement. She became the face of a women's revolution, known for leading protests and strikes that shook the foundations of patriarchal systems. Her boldness had taken her to the highest levels of leadership. Where she once was silenced, she now spoke with power in national parliaments, drafting laws that protected women's rights. Her fearless stance inspired others, and her influence spread even to Nziru, where women began to organize in secret meetings, plotting how to reclaim their place in the village council. No longer were they just passive bystanders in their own lives. They were warriors in their own right. But it was Ugochi who would be the key to their village's true liberation. In her years of study, she unearthed the lost spiritual practices of the Nziru tribe. These traditions, long hidden, told the story of how women once held the roles of spiritual leaders and healers, balancing the strength of men with the wisdom of the earth. Ugochi returned to the village one fateful night, shrouded in the mystery that had always surrounded her. By then, the village had fallen into despair, its crops failing, and its people growing sick with strange illnesses. When she arrived, the village elders were torn between fear and awe. They had tried to erase her memory, but Ugochi was no ghost, they could see that now. She brought with her the sacred text, and through them, she revealed the forgotten rituals that had once blessed the land and kept the people prosperous. It was these practices, she explained, that had been lost when the power was stripped from the women of the tribe. Desperate, the village allowed her to perform the ancient rites. That night, as Ugochi led a ceremony under the full moon, the air thickened with the presence of something divine. The ground seemed to hum beneath their feet, and when the sun rose, the land had begun to heal. Crops started to grow again, and the sickness that had plagued the village slowly disappeared. Ugochi had revived the tribe's connection to the earth, but she didn't stop there. She demanded the restoration of women's roles in the community. With the support of Ifunanya's growing movement and Ada's educated followers, the women of Nziru stepped forward to reclaim their power. The village was no longer a forgotten place of shadows. Under the leadership of these women, it transformed into a beacon of strength. Schools were built where both boys and girls learned side by side, learning from Ada's teachings. A new council was formed, where women sat as equals with men, inspired by Ifunanya's relentless fight for justice. Ugochi became the high priestess of the village, her wisdom sought by leaders from far and wide, guiding them through crises both spiritual and earthly. The fame of these women grew beyond the borders of Nigeria. Their names became symbols of liberation and hope, a reminder of what was possible when courage, intellect, and spirit came together. The Nziru tribe, once an overlooked and oppressed group, was now a community reborn, thriving under the influence of those who had once been cast aside. The village that had once sought to burn its daughters now honored them in song and story, their sacrifices immortalized in the new traditions they had forged. The village had been liberated, not by warriors with swords, but by women who had the strength to fight battles of the mind, heart, and spirit. And in doing so, they became legends, forever remembered as the ones who turned their village from dust into gold.